There is a simple way to pass IELTS writing, and to prove that, I recently took a real exam and got an 8.5 with a very simple essay, and that's exactly how I've trained over 30,000 students to pass their tests. And by the end of this video, you understand what matters, how to prepare, and how to get a band 7, 8, or even a 9 score yourself. And I won't deny that IELTS writing can cause difficulties. And the main reason why this happens is because it's a sort of an iceberg. What does it mean? Well, there are problems you can easily see when you start preparing. And there are some things that may matter even more, but students don't see them and don't know about them until they get their score. And I want you to be prepared for both, so you can really get your best result. So let's start with something pretty obvious. You have 2 tasks and 60 minutes, and it's actually pretty hard to finish both on time. But if you don't, it's gonna cost you a lot. So task 1 is describing a chart, a table, a map, or a diagram if you take IELTS Academic, and writing a letter if you take General Training. Task 2 is always writing an essay. And IELTS specifies how many words you need to write in each task. More than 150 in task 1 and more than 250 in task 2. So writing a lot more won't increase your score, but writing slightly more words than required is what you need, just not fewer. Task instructions suggest spending about 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2, and that's a good rule to follow. And whether you do task 1 or task 2 first is up to you. If you start with task 1, make sure you don't spend more than 20 minutes on it, because you really need that extra time for task 2. When examiners assess your writing, task 1 counts for 33% of the final score and task 2 for 66%. So it's worth spending more time on task 2. I personally prefer starting with task 2 because I can usually finish it in under 40 minutes, and then I use the remaining time on task 1. Because describing graphs and diagrams can take quite a bit of time, so you may need to figure out which approach works best for you. Now, let's talk about what examiners actually assess, because if you understand this part, you can really improve your score. But if you don't know about it, you can easily get penalized for missing a requirement you didn't even know about. And I'm afraid it does happen. Examiners use something called IELTS band descriptors. And in every answer, they assess 4 criteria. You can see them listed at the very top. And below you can see what's required for each band score. To be honest, by just reading the band descriptors, it's not always easy to understand what exactly they mean. So let me show you in simple terms how to get a higher score for each criterion. So examiners do assess your vocabulary and grammar. You probably expect that. What's important is that they look at both complexity and accuracy. And if you use more complex or less common words and more varied grammar, your score can go up. But if you make mistakes, your score goes down. And you need to find a balance between complexity and accuracy. In my experience, most students try to overcomplicate their essays, and their score suffers as a result because they just make too many mistakes, and the final score will be here. Not in the middle, it will be right down here. So generally, keep your writing clear and straightforward. In my recent video, I showed how I got an 8.5 score in a real exam with a simple essay. And I'm sure that would be enough for you to pass your exam, all right? So simple and clear gets a higher score. And the real secret to a band 7 or an 8 lies in the next two criteria, which so many students overlook. Apart from vocabulary and grammar, examiners assess two more things that many students don't even know about. The first is task response, or in task 1 is called task achievement. Basically, the examiners check how well you answer the question, and they're very strict about it. They want to see whether your answer fully covers every part of the task. And that's where a lot of marks are lost. Not because of bad English, but because the essay simply doesn't answer the question properly, or the ideas are not presented in the way examiners expect. So you definitely need some preparation here. The second criterion is called coherence and cohesion. I know these words may sound intimidating, but it's actually quite simple. Examiners check whether the essay is logically organized and whether ideas flow smoothly one from another instead of jumping around or repeating things you said earlier. So these two criteria, task achievement or task response and coherence and cohesion, that's where you can get the quickest improvements in your score, and that's where you should spend your time. And you can get a higher score by following several very simple rules, which I'm about to show you. As I mentioned, examiners look at how well you answer the task and how clear your structure is. To get that right, it's helpful to have a clear structure that you use every time. It gets you a better score and it saves you time. Let's start with task 2, the essay. In 90% of cases, your essay should have 4 paragraphs. An introduction, where you introduce the topic and clearly state your opinion or position. Basically, you answer the essay question already in the introduction. Yes, that's not how we were taught to write school essays, but that's IELTS. Then, in the first body paragraph, you discuss one side of the question, and in the second body paragraph, the other side. And if you're wondering what sides I'm talking about, these are, for example, advantages and disadvantages, or the first view, the second view, or causes of a problem, solutions, or answer to the first question, answer to the second question. And then you write your conclusion, where you summarize your arguments and restate your opinion. You don't need to be original. Use the structure in every task 2 essay. Okay, occasionally you may have the third body paragraph, but the rest of the structure always stays the same. Now, what about task 1? So here it all depends on what type of test you take. If you take IELTS Academic, like most people, you'll be describing a chart, graph, table, or map, or maybe a diagram. So start by introducing the topic. Then, a very important part, write an overview. That's 1 or 2 sentences where you summarize the task. That's where you provide the big picture, your main finding. And then you write 2 body paragraphs presenting the main trends or differences, comparing trends, or highlighting the main features. And you don't need a conclusion. If you take IELTS general training, then your task 1 is writing a letter. And each task has 3 bullet points. You must cover each bullet point in your letter. Start by introducing why you're writing. Then cover each bullet point in a separate paragraph and conclude your letter. The structure stays the same with every type of task you get. But what you write inside depends on your task. And knowing more about these different types of tasks can help you make sure that you fully answer the question. Remember, we mentioned that that's very important for your score, and it can also help you write your essay more quickly. So here are the main types of tasks you need to know about. Let's begin with the essay task 2. There are 5 main types: advantages and disadvantages, 2 views in your opinion or agree-disagree, causes of a problem and solutions, and 2 direct questions. You should prepare for all of them, so whichever one you get, you know exactly how to approach it. And direct question. Academic. You may need to describe some graphs or tables or maps, usually showing 2 versions of the same place in the past and now, or now and in the future. And a diagram where you describe a process. So graphs appear most often, diagrams less often, but it's still important to practice all. Task 1 general training is writing a letter, which may be informal when you're writing to a friend, semi-formal, writing to a colleague or your neighbor. And I know that my students often struggle with this semi-formal style, so pay extra attention to it. And then a formal letter is writing to a business, a company. So make sure you prepare for each task type before the exam. Unfortunately, there is a lot of misinformation about IELTS writing, or just misunderstanding of what helps and what doesn't help at all. So when you're preparing, the materials and resources you use matter. For practice tasks, the Cambridge English practice tests are the best. They are written by the same organization that produces the real IELTS papers, so they are the most accurate reflection of the test. Many students also use AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude, which can be really helpful. But one word of warning: don't rely on their scores. I've analyzed how they grade essays, and their results are unreliable, often lower than they should be, but sometimes missing issues that real examiners would notice. However, you can use ChatGPT or Claude to proofread your writing and check vocabulary and grammar. Just say, proofread it and correct obvious mistakes only. Give me the list of corrections under the essay. Otherwise, it's just gonna rewrite your whole essay and you won't see what you did wrong. ChatGPT can also help you generate ideas. You can ask it for 5 advantages and 5 disadvantages of studying abroad, or 5 causes of a certain problem. But don't ask it to write full answers for you. Those essays often wouldn't score well in a real exam. And if you want to practice effectively, use model answers. Here is how to do it. Take a model answer, and before you read it, take the topic only and write your own answer. Check your answer, think about how you could improve it. Then read the model answer, compare to yours, and improve yours. For example, you can download the PDF guide with 5 sample answers for every task 2 essay, which I have. You can download it below, linked in the description. And this way you see what a strong high band answer looks like and how it differs from yours. But remember, if you need a band 7, your writing doesn't need to be perfect. It can be simpler and still get you the score you need. So don't be discouraged by perfect band 9 essays. And if someone tells you that you must use big words or long complicated sentences to pass, to impress the examiner, that's not true. I've trained over 30,000 students and I can tell you, simple, clear writing is what gets results. And what you should do next is learn how to write a full IELTS Writing Task 2 essay from the introduction all the way to the conclusion. And you can do that in this video here. And don't forget to download those sample answers we talked about, linked below. And thank you so much for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!